Hey everyone, it's Desiree. This video is going to be different. We're going to talk about simplicity. Using what we already have, maybe we don't have dies, but just using very basic items that are in our stash. We all have pattern paper, and it's amazing what we can do with it. And this came about because of a comment that I had received in a previous video. We're going to need scissors, pencil, a couple paper pads. Again, I know we have them in our stash. Of course, glue, some foam squares. These are the two paper pads that I'm going to work with. These are Recollections. I get them from my local Michaels. Yes, I live in my local Michaels. Now, this paper pad here was last year's release. The other one was just released for this year, so head out. They have some beautiful papers. But if you go through your paper pads, a lot of them have beautiful backgrounds. They also have beautiful focal points. That's what we create on our cards. Focal points. They have sentiments built into them. This is the one that was just released this year. I mean, look at that right there. If you cut that down, you can make that a focal point. It's got banners. It's got strips. So this video is going to show just how we can use these papers, no dies. I'll say that again, no dies, no stamps. Just by having paper, scissors, and your type of adhesive, you can create beautiful cards. So that's what we're going to focus on. So for the first one, now this is big. Now this would go on a 5.5 by 5.5 card base. But you can see, you can take this and just by fussy cutting around it, you can get a beautiful base for your card. You have a maroon background on it. You can see how this looks. Now, of course, I'm going to fit this on my normal 4.25, 5.5 top folding card base. So I'm going to use my trimmer to cut this down. By keeping that top strip with the hole, I know where my center point is. And by all means, with the 2 points up at the top, I know where my center point is as well. This video is actually also going to show you the process of how these cards were developed. You can see I'm heading in one direction. I'm going to go into another direction. These cards that I'm showing you literally took 30 minutes from start to finish to create. Even though the video is only 16 minutes long, these 3 cards took 30 minutes. So this is what I have here. Now, when I bring in my card base, it's a little bit bigger. So we're going to change our mind. We're going to change the format of this card base. So you can see I cut off the bottom of it. This could be a tag, and it would make a beautiful tag. So now I'm just going to grab one of my scratch pieces of cardstock, because we all keep that too, because I don't throw anything away. Everyone knows that. And I'm just going to draw a snowdrift. By doing that, I can then grab my scissors, and I can just either cut above it or below it. And I'm going to create my own snowdrift. Yes, I am that person that has to have the dies. And yes, there's a couple of you that have convinced me. I'm going to break down and I'm going to get a brother scan and cut. Thank you for that. Yes, appreciate it. You know who you are. But you can see, without a die, I'm able to create a snowdrift. No, it doesn't have the stitch line going across it, but you're going to see we can create that as well, just using simple supplies. I'm going to put a strip of foam tape at the base of this so that I can put my snowdrift on top of this. I'm grabbing one of my markers. Yes, it's a Stampin' Up! Marker. It could be the Crayola markers. They are phenomenal. You can get a pack of 50 or 100 for under $15, and they're Crayola Super Tips. And you can do the same thing. And all I'm doing is just making some stitch lines going across the top. Also realize that that marker needs to be refilled. It was very dry. So I'm going to place this down, and then I'm going to trim off the edges around my focal point. And you can see some of these papers are double-sided from Recollections, some of them are not. This was a beautiful paper pad, and again, it did come out last year. I'm not seeing it this year. So this page here has all kinds of sentiments, some blocks that you can create. If you saw some of my other cards, you can cut some of these out and place them all over to create your focal points. I'm just choosing 2 of these. I'm choosing the one with the presents and the one that says "So Very Merry" with the snowmen, because my second favorite thing are snowmen. Snowflakes are first, snowmen are second. I'm going to use my art glitter glue, and I'm going to adhere that up in behind the snowbank. Now again, these cards are very general. So no glitters, no Nuvo drops, no sparkle pens. Some of us may not have those. This, let's face it, it's a big hobby, and we get sucked in easily. But for all good reasons, we need lots of things to create. I used my liquid glue to adhere this down onto my card panel. And now I'm going to adhere the presents down on the bottom corner. So at the base of that, because I want it to come off of it to add some texture, some levels of dimension. So I'm adding foam squares to the bottom, and then I'm just going to add some liquid glue at the top because it's going to hang off that top panel. Now for that top panel, you could have put a hole in the center of the bow to add a real bow. You could have added a hole also to add string to make it look like a tag. You can add another sentiment on the other side of that. That's the first card. Now this panel here, how easy is this? You can see you could fussy cut along the tree line to just have that base. Or you can keep it all together and just cut it down. So what I did, I cut this down to 4 by 5 1/4. Because then this is going to fit on my normal 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 top folding card base. It's what I always use. I do make cards with the side folding. It's just not my favorite feel. I can't explain it. But sometimes we just go with what our eye looks for. I'm going to take this panel and I'm going to prop it up using some foam tape. So that, of course, yes, that was the last of my 3M. And then using up that foam tape that I received at my local Big Lots. Again, check out your local hardware or anything else. You may find some foam tape there that's a little bit less expensive and works just as well. I'm going to go back to that panel with all the sentiments, and I'm going to fussy cut out the one that says "Love Winter." I like winter. Don't like the snow. I think it's beautiful when it snows, just don't like it on my roof when there's a lot. And I'm just going to place that up at the top. That was that card. How simple. And it's beautiful. So now I'm just going to use my scrap white again, and I'm going to cut out again some more hillsides to make 3 different. Now I could have stuck with that single piece, but by putting this on the next one, I'm going to create 3 layers. So now I'm going to cut this a different way. These don't have to be exact or perfect. By moving the paper, you're going to get a smooth cut. Now you can see how I'm chopping into that a little bit, which gives some errors into it. But as long as you move the paper as you're moving your scissors, you'll get a smooth cut. I'm showing you cosmetic sponges and cotton balls. You can use these to do simple blending. Okay, now you could use these also for detailed blending, but it's going to take a lot of work. But for just add some distressing on the sides or accents of that nature, you can use these, and you can get them at your dollar store. So I'm using Soft Sky Stampin' Up! Ink. And you can also use these bulldog clips. Again, you can get these at the dollar store. And just by putting your cosmetic sponge in there, you now have a holder for it. So again, simple tools. We really don't need those fancy tools. And all I'm doing is I'm just putting a little bit of this color at the top so that the 3 different levels of snowbanks that I'm creating here are going to be visible. Now, your cosmetic sponges are very similar to the blending tools that we have. So they can be used more so. They get better as you use them more, but they will fall apart. The next one that I'm going to show you is a cotton ball. Now, and again, these can give you different textures as well, just by blotting and so forth. So you can see with these 2 blending tools, very simple, very basic, you want to make sure that you do dab off on a scratch piece of paper so that it's not so harsh. They will sit on top of these, but they look very similar when I put them up together so that you can see. So I've created the 3 panels, and I grabbed another one of the backgrounds and I cut that down to 4 inches by 5 1/4. No wonky dies, no stitch rectangle dies. We're not using that. Excuse me. So I'm going to adhere that down flat onto this panel, the first snowbank, and I'm going to cut off the edges to make it even with this panel. And then I'm going to adhere the next 2 with foam tape. So it's just like when we make our Shaker cards, we have 2 layers of foam tape. This will end up having 2 layers as well, but one on top of each other. So it's like a step that we created there. This set also had some tags and some sentiments and borders and all of that fun stuff. So I'm going to use the Oh What Fun, the Happy Holidays for my sentiment, and then that little tag. So for the Happy Holidays, I want to set that into the middle bank and just set it behind it. Again, it's adding dimension by doing these 2 things. I'm going to adhere that down with glue. I'm using my, I think that's called a crocodile. I very rarely use that. I have to be honest. I'm, believe it or not, I'm not a fan. I would just like a regular hole punch. I seem to have problems with it. It's operator error, please. But it seems to jam up often. But I like the one size of this hole punch, not the normal size. So I pulled out some of my baker's twine, and I'm just going to thread that through, tie a knot at the top, and we're going to trim it. And then we're going to set that down underneath the first snowbank, just to have that pop up. I'm going to use a foam square at the top because it's hitting that next level so that it stays even, and then liquid glue at the bottom of it. I'm also going to adhere the top of that string with some liquid glue. Now, if you have glue dots, I love glue dots. If you have those, you can use those as well. But if you don't, your liquid adhesive will work just as well. And then the Oh What Fun is going to sit at the bottom. And what's great with that, it's pointing. So you could put something really cute on the inside of this. A cute sentiment, a funny saying, or even create a pop-up in there as well. So you can see just by using a pair of scissors, types of glue, string that we all have. It could be string that we save from packaging and so forth. You can create beautiful cards. We don't necessarily have to have the blips, the bloops, and the blunders that's going on here. So these are the 3 cards. I'm going to show you them in detail. So dig out your paper pads, really look through them, page through them. A lot of them do have focal points. A lot of them do have those sentiments, those banners, those strips. And take what we do know and apply that. It doesn't have to be an expensive hobby or suck us in. It does. I am so guilty of that. When we try new things, we want to keep up with what's going on, with the new techniques and so forth. But even with those new techniques, there are ways to make it less expensive and make it more inexpensive for us. And then we can build up to those more expensive products. You can get the same results with Crayola products and also the Zig Clean colors, for an example. So that's the video for today. I hope it did inspire you to dig into your stash. All the products that I use will be linked below. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you like this video, hit the like button. And remember, be creative with what we have. Just because a card takes a small amount of time and it's simple does not mean it can't be beautiful and appreciated. Take care.